Howdy, my special angels. Well, now it's September, and let me tell you, them hot months are finally going away. Summer was a little bit extreme this year, but this month we're going to be doing something different. The title of our stories this month is Going to the Doctor, because I know some kids out there really have problems going to the doctors, and I don't know why. I mean, actually, I guess when I was a kid, I was scared to go to the doctor too. But now that I'm older, I can go to the doctor myself and have no problem. Actually enjoy it. So, let's see what we can find going to the doctor. So our first book is titled Curious George Goes to the Doctor. Well, let's get started. Well, Curious George goes to the doctor. He's a little special monkey, you know, with a big man. His owner is a man with a yellow hat. So, it says, this is Curious George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. Just like I was telling you. He was a very good little monkey, but he was always curious. He always wanted to see what was going around, look at different things, you know, the one he wasn't supposed to, getting him in trouble. So, today, Curious George was curious about a big box the man put on the desk. So here's Curious George, and he's looking at the box. Well, what could he be curious about looking in that box? Well, what could it be in it? George could not resist. He simply had to open it. It's never good to open things when they're not yours. It was full of funny little pieces of all sorts of shapes and sorts and colors. Curious George took one out. It looked like a piece of candy. So here's Curious George, and he's taking the little pieces out of the box that he's not supposed to. And he's looking at them. What's going to happen? Well, maybe it was a piece of candy, he thought. So, maybe he could eat it. Okay, George put the piece in his mouth, and before he knew it, he had swallowed it. And he wasn't even supposed to be doing that anyway. So, a while later, the man with the yellow hat came home. Why, George, he said, I see you have already opened the box with the jigsaw puzzle. It was supposed to be a surprise for you. Well, let's go to work on it since you've already opened it and see what the surprise is. So here's the box where they're opening it up and looking at all the pieces. But remember, one little piece disappeared. I don't know where it went. I think Curious George ate it. Wonder what that's going to turn out to be. So, finally, the puzzle was finished. Well, almost finished, except for guess what? That one special little piece. One was missing. So here's the puzzle, and it's a puzzle of Curious George, but it's missing one little piece. So, the man looked everywhere for it, but he could not find it. That's strange, he said. It's a brand new puzzle. Well, it cannot be helped. Maybe we'll find it in the morning. Let's go to bed now, said the man in the yellow hat to George. So they looked and looked and looked, and here they couldn't find the little hat, or the little piece. The man in the yellow hat couldn't find it, so then they decided to go to bed and have a good night's sleep. Well, the next morning, George did not feel very well. He had a tummy ache and did not want to eat his breakfast. The man was worried. He went to the telephone to call Dr. Baker. Remember, September's a month about going to the doctors. Well, I'll be right over as soon as I can, said the doctor. So here's Curious George. They just had breakfast, and he's not feeling well, so he's not eating very much. Finally, Dr. Baker, he got to the big man in yellow hat's house and with Curious George, and he started examining Curious George, because Curious George didn't like to go to the doctors. Not at all. So, first, Dr. Baker looked down George's throat and felt his tummy. Then he took out his stethoscope and listened. "I'm not sure what's wrong," he said. "You better take George to the hospital and have an x-ray taken. I'll call them and let them know you're coming." An x-ray is where they can actually go in and take a picture of your body, the whole thing, and see what's on the inside, like your bones and stuff inside. So, here's where the doctor's examining George, and now they're going to the doctors at the hospital. "Don't worry, George," said the man when they were driving to the hospital. You'll have been there before when you broke your leg." I guess Curious George broke his leg in another book somewhere. I'll probably read that one to you eventually. "Remember how nice the doctors and nurses was? Because you always get that special little jello and then little special balloons every time you go to the doctors. That's always fun." George held his big rubber ball tight as they walked up to the hospital steps. So here's George, and he's got his big yellow ball and his rubber ball. He's holding it so he has something to console him. So next, a nurse took him down a long hallway to where she gave George something to drink that looked white and tasted sweet. It is called barium. Barium helps the nurses and the doctors when they take the x-ray to see all the different stuff inside of you. The nurse explained. It helps the doctors find out what's wrong with you. George is in the next room, and in the next room is where the x-ray, because only one person can be in front of the x-ray. In the next room stood a big table, and the doctor was just putting a heavy apron on that's made of lead. Then he gave the man one just like it. George was curious. Would he get one too? Because the lead in the apron actually blocks the x-ray, and it doesn't let the x-ray go inside the body. But George did not get one because they're trying to see what's going on with George's body here on the inside. So here's where they're getting the lead apron, and they're getting ready to take the picture of George's insides. "You get on the table first, George," said the doctor. "I'm going to take some x-ray pictures of your insides." He pushed a button, and there was a funny noise. "There, now you may get up, and we will have the x-rays developed right away." So now they're going to actually get to see what's on the inside of George. So, now let's see, they're back, and there's something there that should not be, said the doctor when they were looking at the x-ray. "Why, that looks like, I think it must be the piece that was missing in our jigsaw puzzle yesterday," said the man. "Well, well, well," said the doctor, "at least we know now what is wrong with our little patient. I'll tell the Dr. Baker right away. George will have to stay in the hospital for the few days, so always be careful. Don't put anything in your mouth it's not supposed to be." They put a tube down his throat to get the piece out. It's only a small operation. An operation is where they cut you open and they help you out on the inside. I'll call a nurse and have her take you to the admitting office because he's having to stay the night. So here's where they see the puzzle, and now they know what's on the inside. So now he has to stay overnight to get the puzzle out. Well, many people were waiting outside the office. George had to wait too. "Look, Betsy," the woman said next to him, said to her, "Little girl, there's Curious George." Betsy looked up for a moment, but did not even smile. Betsy had never been in the hospital before. She was scared. So here's all the people, and they're all here waiting, trying to be waiting for the doctors. They must have done something too. Well, finally it was George's turn. A pretty young nurse took him to the next room. My, how many rooms, how many nurses there was. One nurse wrote down a lot of things about George on his name, his address, and what was wrong with him. Another nurse put a bracelet around his wrist. "It has your name on it," George said, "so that everybody knows who you are." So here's everybody, and she's putting all the information down on the book, so now that she knows who he is and his address and his information so they don't put the wrong person with the wrong surgery. The pretty young nurse came back. "My name is Carol," she said. "I'm going to take you to your room now. We'll call it the Children's Ward, and that's where they put all the little children, and post to your bed, and put you to bed. There will be lots of children to keep you company." So here they are, and they're walking down the long hallway to the special ward where the children stay. That could be fun because there's going to be all kinds of different children to play with. Yay! Well, and so it was. There was a lot of children in the room. Some were up and around, others were in their beds with a doctor and nurse looking at them. Dave was having a blood transfusion where they was cleaning out his blood, washing it all up on the inside. Since Steve had his leg bandaged and was sitting in a go-kart. He must have broke his leg like the yellow hat man said the Curious George did before. Betsy was in the bed looking sad. George got to her bed next to Betsy. So here they're walking in the room, and it's got all the kids in it and all the different things that's wrong with them because they were not doing what they weren't supposed to be. So George was glad when he was in bed at last. His tummy was hurting again. The man sat with him for a while. "Now I have to leave you, George," he finally said. "I'll be back first thing in the morning before they take you to the operating room. Now Nurse Carol will tuck you in when it's time to sleep." Then he left George sit there as he cried because George was left all alone with the nurse and he wanted to be with the man with the yellow hat. But the man with the yellow hat, there was no room for him because he was an adult and not a child. The children, they always get special little things in the little ward. So, as he had promised, the man was back early the next morning. The nurses were keeping George very busy, so he wasn't worried about the surgery. Well, one nurse was taking his temperature, one was taking his blood pressure, and one was giving him a pill to make him sleepy, she said. And one was getting him ready to have a shot. Shots, they do hurt just for a little instant. They usually say you're going to have a pinch, but it's okay. It'll help you out in the end. So, here's George. They're getting him ready for surgery. "It's going to hurt, George," she said, "but only for a moment, just like I told you. It's just a little bitty pinch." She took his arm and George let out a scream. "But the needle hasn't touched you yet." He was anticipating that needle coming at him. I don't know why he thought it was going to hurt, but I guess she did tell him it was going to hurt just a little bit. "Now that it's done, that wasn't so bad, was it?" said the nurse. "No, it really was not. And anyway, it was over now. Just like I said, it only took a second, just one little second, just to get the little pinch." By the time the attendant came with a stretcher to wheel him to the operating room, George was already getting sleepy. Well, he tried hard to stay awake. He was so curious to see what was going to happen next. So here's where they're giving him the shot, and here's where they're rolling him down to the surgery. He could see a big table with bright lamps over it, and doctors and nurses all around. They had caps on their heads and masks over their faces. Only their eyes were showing, because they don't want germs to get on your cut when they cut you open to do the little surgery. One of the doctors winked at George and patted his head. It was Dr. Baker, who had been to the house when it all started. He looked funny with a mask on his head, and then George was fast asleep because the shot they gave him, it made him go to sleep so he wouldn't feel them during the surgery. Just like I said, never worry about going to the doctors. So here's George. He's getting wheeled into the room, and Here's all the little men, nurses, and everything to help the doctor get the little thing out of the inside of George. When George woke up and did not know what had happened, he did not even know where he was. And then he saw Nurse Carol. "It's all done, George," she said. "They got the piece out. In a day or two, you'll be running around again." So now, guess what? They got that little special thing out that he had, and now he's not going to be hurting no more. So now he can eat all the little treats and candies he wants. So the man had brought him a picture book, but George felt very sick and dizzy. His throat was hurting, too. He was not even curious about the new book. He closed his eyes again. "We'll let him sleep," said Nurse Carol. "The more he sleeps, the better." The next morning, George felt better. He even ate a dish of ice cream. Ice cream and candy, like I said, in kids' wards at the doctor's office, you always get special little treats, which is a good thing. Dr. Baker came to see him, and the man, of course, came too. The man in the yellow hat, that is. Betsy was watching over him from time to time. She seemed a little less sad, but she still did not smile. Steve wheeled his cart over to George's bed. "Tomorrow I can get up and try to walk," he said. Remember, Steve is the one that has the broke leg with the cast on it. "Boy, I can't hardly wait," he said. So, here's after the surgery, and George did really good, and now he's over here and he's talking to his little friend Steve that has the bandaged leg. So, I'll take you to the playroom now. Oh my gosh, I guess now they have a playroom in the kids' ward. It's always good to go to the doctors. Nurse Carol said that the next morning and the afternoon, your friend will come and take you home. Because they only had to stay overnight at the doctor's. So the next day, the man with the yellow hat's going to actually get him and take him home. So, the playroom was full with all kinds of children. A lady was showing Betsy how to use finger paint. And there was all sorts of things to play with, even a puppet theater. And that was just the thing for George. He had his 4 hands, so he could handle 4 puppets at the same time. So George gave a real puppet show with a dragon, a clown, a bear, a policeman. He had everything going on, which was really cool for the rest of the little kids. Then the children laughed and shouted, and even Betsy, for the first time, smiled just a little bit. So here's all the little kids, and Betsy's over here doing finger paints. And then, if you look over here, you see George, and he's giving a puppet show since he has 4 little hands. There was a TV set in the playroom, and also a record player. George was curious. Oh no, not again. He's curious again. So Curious George was curious if he climbed on the record player and turned on the switch, would it go round and round and round and round like a merry-go-round? Well, it did. It started slowly, then faster, and whippy! George had lost his balance and was sailing through the air. George is always getting into trouble. So here he is, he sees the little record player, and he gets on it, and he's turning it on, and he's going around and around and around and around, and gets thrown off the little record player, but something catches his fall, which is a pillow. Whew, that's good. Luckily, George landed on a soft cushioned pillow. The children cheered, and Betsy smiled again, because it was kind of funny seeing George go sailing through the air when he wasn't supposed to be curious anyway. It was so funny. But then the play lady picked George up. "That's enough for now," she said. "You better take a nap before lunch. We have a big day ahead of us. The mayor is coming to visit the hospital today. And later you'll go home with your friend, George." So she took him to bed because the mayor is like the one in charge of the city, and he's going to come and visit all the children and do something special for them, which is really cool. So when George woke up, Steve was just there taking his first step. Steve was the one with the bandage. A nurse was helping him and the children were watching. The go-kart stood there empty, and guess what? Yep, you got it. Curious George, he looked at it and then climbed into it. Then he grabbed the wheels, and then, while nobody was looking, he wheeled the go-kart right out of the room. George could make the go-kart go very fast. This was fun. Down the hall he went. By now, the nurse had noticed that he was gone and came running after him. "George, George," she shouted. So here he is. All the people are looking at Steve take his first step because he had a bandaged leg, remember? And George, he's wheeling down the hallway in his little go-kart. And Steve needed that. But George was too excited to listen and wheeled around the corner and down the ramp to the floor below, where some men were very busy pushing lunch carts, and a lot of doctors and nurses were showing the mayor around. So here's George wheeling down the hill. I wonder what's going to happen now, because you got all these doctors and nurses, and they're showing the mayor, and then you have these lunch carts. I bet there's going to be some catastrophe. So George tried to stop, but it was too late. Wham! The go-kart landed right in the middle of everything. Lunch carts tumbled, spinach and scrambled eggs and strawberry jam were all over the floor. People fell over each other, and George was thrown out of the go-kart and landed right into the mayor's arms. Well, the good thing is, at least the mayor caught George, so he didn't get hurt again. But the bad thing is, they got food everywhere, and everybody is falling all around. So what a mess it was. "You broke all the dishes," someone cried. "He ruined the go-kart," explained another. "What will the mayor think of it?" whispered someone else, and so went on. Suddenly, everybody looked up and listened from above, and came happy laughter. And there stood Betsy, laughing, laughing, laughing. And then the children joined in. Then the mayor started laughing. And finally, everybody just laughed and laughed, and that is, everybody except George, because he's the one that caused the whole big mess. But up here on top, you see the people, and you see the little kids are all laughing at George because they thought it was very funny. So Betsy came running down the ramp, threw her arms around George, and kissed him. "Don't be sad, George," she said. "The whole thing was so funny. I never laughed so much in my life. I'm so glad you were here in the hospital with me. Now the director of the hospital, I am sorry this happened, Mr. Mayor," she said, "but I think we'll just clean up the mess and be done with it. George," he went on, "you made a terrible mess. But you also made our little sad Betsy happy again, and that is more than any of us has done. And now I see your friend has just came to take you home. So goodbye, George." The hospital was happy to see him go. Okay, and take good care of yourself. Don't get into any more mischief. The children crowded around the window, waving goodbye when George and the man in the yellow hat were finally leaving the hospital. So here's Betsy as she comes down and helps little George and makes him feel better. And here's the man in the yellow hat, and they're cleaning up the mess that George had made. And so here's all the children on top of the hospital waving goodbye to George. But as the car was turning into the driveway, Nurse Carol came running after them. "Here's a little package with something that belongs to you, George," she called. "But don't open it before you're home. And after George has been through all that mess, you think he's going to open it? Probably." So here's the nurse, and she runs out to give him a special little box. George was curious. Well, who would it not be? The moment he reached home, he ripped the paper off, tore open the box, and there was a piece of the puzzle that had caused all the trouble. "How nice of the doctor to save it for us," said the man in the yellow hat. "Now we can finish the puzzle." So here's George. He waited till he got home, which was a good thing. And here's the man in the yellow hat that noticed that the piece was little and it fit the puzzle. So now they're able to finish and do the puzzle. The end of Curious George. Well, what's going to be our next book? So let's reach and see what we can find. It's called Green Puppy Goes to the Dentist. So, let's get started on that one. Well, one morning in class, Green Puppy had a big announcement. I have to go to the dentist tomorrow, she said. Most of her friends had never been to the dentist before. Are you scared? Said Purple Kangaroo. Green Puppy nodded her head. She was a little scared. So, here's the blue puppy, and there's the green dog, and there's the purple kangaroo, and the orange little kitten. And they're all, he's telling them he has to go to the dentist. But Blue knew there was nothing to be afraid of. Come over to my house today, she said. I'll show you that there's nothing scary about the dentist. Dentists actually work on your teeth, and they fix all the little cavities that you have, which is really good. I remember when I was a kid, I went to the dentist. They had this big old toy box that I used to love to go digging in, which was really cool. I loved going to the dentist for that, even though, yes, he is a doctor. So, back to the book. How can you show me? Asked the green puppy. You'll see, said Blue with a big smile. So here's the green puppy, and here's Blue, and he's showing him about the dentist. When the green puppy walked in Blue's house, things were very different. Welcome to the waiting room, said the nurse Pepper. What do I do here? Asked Green Puppy. You wait over there with the other patients until your name is called, said Nurse Pepper, and be very still and very nice to the other kids in the room. So, here's the different room, and here's his friend, and they're waiting in the little made-up little room to show him it wasn't bad going to the dentist. There's a magazine and books to look at while you wait, said Tickety. She and Joe were waiting in the waiting room, too. Tickety is a little clock, I guess. Cool, said Green Puppy as she picked up a book. After the little Nurse Pepper said, Green Puppy, Dr. Blue will see you now. So here's Tickety, a clock. Here's Green Puppy. They're all in the waiting room. Here's the man reading a book. And here's the little nurse receptionist acting like they're at the dentist. So, Nurse Pepper led Green Puppy into the next room. Green Puppy looked a little worried, so Joe came with her. There's nothing to be afraid of, said Dr. Blue. The first thing you need to do is lie back in the dentist chair. But what if I don't fit? Green Puppy asked. No problem. The chair moves and bends, and so you fit just right, said Dr. Blue. Next, Green Puppy smiled. She laid back the chair and was very comfy. So here's Green Puppy, and here's the Blue acting like a dentist, and here's a little bitty dentist tray with a little man holding a chain to put the little drapery around so that the saliva and spit don't get all over everywhere. Here's some water, some toothpaste, some toothbrush. So, with all those things, Dr. Blue asked Joe, This is my dentist tools, said Dr. Blue. Do you want to see them, Green Puppy? Green Puppy nodded. Blue Puppy showed her all the tools around in the chair. This is a tray with all my brushes, said Blue. Here's the little mirror so I can get a good look at your teeth, and here's a cup that you can rinse out with after I look. They aren't very scary at all, see? So dentists aren't scary either. So here's the little nurse putting on a little drapery around Green's neck. And this is all the tools. It's got the mirror, the toothbrush, the toothpaste, all the cool little different things that they can see. Well, the first things first, said Dr. Blue. I have to turn on this bright light so we can get a good look at your teeth. Do I need sunglasses? Asked Green Puppy. No. You can just close your eyes, said Dr. Blue. Dr. Blue asked Green Puppy to open her mouth really wide. I need to take a good look inside, she said. The little mirror helps me look at the back of your teeth. Will my teeth see themselves in the mirror? Green Puppy laughed. That's right, said Dr. Blue. So here's Green Puppy, and he's asking about the mirror, which is actually kind of cool that you can see. And here's Dr. Blue acting like a dentist, so he can joke around and show him what it's like to be in a dentist chair, which is really cool. Well, the next page says, next is teeth cleaning time. And Dr. Blue, first I'll pick off anything that stuck to your teeth. Ooh, Green Puppy said with a giggle. Things get stuck to my teeth? Yep, said Blue. The bits of food? Oh, said Green Puppy. I'm glad I came to the dentist then. I don't want my food on my teeth. Now clean your teeth and get a good brushing, said Dr. Blue. Joe was confused. If the Green Puppy brushes at home, why does the dentist need to brush them for her? The dentist uses special toothpaste. That's the secret. He uses special toothpaste to get where you can't get with your toothbrush, that you're supposed to brush your teeth every night and every morning when you get up. It makes your mouth look all extra shiny and clean. Excuse me. After brushing, Dr. Blue, you need to rinse out your mouth, and that's what the cup and bowl are for, said Joe. That's right, said Dr. Blue. You take a little bit of water and swish, swish, swish around in your mouth. Then you spit into the bowl. But the spitting is not polite, said Green Puppy, a little worried. When you're rinsing at the dentist, it's okay. Dr. Blue reassured her. Green Puppy swish, 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 and spit in the bowl just like Blue had told her. So here's Green Puppy after he brushed his teeth at the dentist, and he spit it in the big bowl here. So, time for flossing, said Dr. Blue. What's flossing? Asked Green Puppy. Remember when I said bits of food get stuck on your teeth? Dr. Blue explained. Food can also get stuck between your teeth. Flossing gets it all unstuck. How? Asked Joe. I'll take a tiny piece of string and put it in between your teeth and pull up, said Dr. Blue, and pop. The food comes free. That's funny, said Green Puppy. So here's the man, and here's Dr. Blue acting like it is, and here's Green Puppy, and they're showing him about flossing after he gets through with his teeth. And if you look over here, here's the little water and the dental floss and the mirror and stuff. Well, the last step is taking x-rays, said Dr. Blue. Green Puppy was so nervous. She had never had an x-ray taken before. So remember in Curious George where they took x-rays of his body to see what was on the inside? Well, at the dentist, they also take x-rays, but they just take it of your teeth, which is really cool. Your teeth are just getting their picture taken. So when you go to school and you get your picture taken, think about going to the doctor just like that. Your teeth got to get their picture taken too. So Dr. Blue explained, my teeth love taking pictures, said Green Puppy. First, we put a blanket over you so that the camera can see your teeth better. And remember, the blanket is the lead blanket, so now Blue gets one. Curious George didn't get one because he had his body done. But now they're just doing Blue's teeth, or they're doing Green Puppy's teeth, so he gets a lead apron for the rest of his body. So, now it's picture time, said Dr. Blue, and she snapped a couple of pictures. Green Puppy smiled for the camera as big as he could so that way his teeth could have the best picture. So here's the man, here's Dr. Blue, they're giving him a little blanket, they're getting ready to take a picture of his teeth, which is really cool. Well, you're all done, said Dr. Blue. That's it, said Green Puppy. Hey, going to the dentist isn't scary at all. Green Puppy thanked Dr. Blue. She went home and wasn't worried at all. The next day, Green Puppy came to school after her visit to the dentist. What happened? Asked Magenta. Everyone gathered around Were you scared? Asked Purple Kangaroo. Green Puppy smiled. Going to the dentist wasn't scary as my friend Blue had said to me at all, and I even got a special present, like I told you. It's really cool. I asked for them special little gifts at the dentist. So, here's everybody asking, because remember Blue was just showing him how to go to the dentist so he wouldn't be scared the next day when he went. So Green goes to the dentist the next day, and he wasn't scared at all. Green Puppy held up a shiny new toothbrush that he got from the dentist. It was very pretty. Wow, everyone said. I want to go to the dentist, said Magenta. Me too, said Purple Kangaroo. Green Puppy smiled wide to show off how clean her teeth was. She thanked Dr. Blue with a big hug for getting her ready for the dentist. So, that's all I have for you here this month of September, which is really cool. It was about going to the doctors and dentists and not being scared. So, next month is Halloween. So, we're looking forward to August and wonder what we're going to read then. I'm sure it's going to be a costume. Get your best costume on. But the last thing I'll say here in September is, when you think of pink, think of me. Love you all. All Alize.